I agreed to carry the Ice Queen Alphazar, but gave birth to 4. Now she won't let me leave. The winter wind cut through the thin fabric of Maya Chen's coat as she locked the bakery's back door, her breath fogging in the frigid Boston air. It was 6 a.m., and the streets were still quiet, buried under a fresh layer of snow that blurred the lines between sidewalk and road. Her hands ached from kneading dough for hours, her shoulders tight with the kind of exhaustion that seeped into your bones, the kind that came from working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on, and her little sister's stomach full. Maya was an omega, small, quiet, the kind who faded into the background, who'd learned long ago that staying invisible was safer than drawing attention. Her scent was soft, warm, like vanilla and honey, sweet but unassuming, easy to overlook in a world that favored alphas, tall, dominant, powerful women whose very presence commanded respect, whose scents, sharp, like cedar and rain and smoke, hung in the air like a warning. 3 years ago, her father had died in a construction accident, leaving behind nothing but a mountain of medical bills and a family adrift. 6 months later, her mother had been diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease, her treatments draining every penny they had, and then some. The small apartment she shared with her 16-year-old sister, Lily, in South Boston was barely 800 square feet, cramped and drafty, every surface covered in reminders of their struggle, stacks of hospital invoices on the kitchen counter, past due notices taped to the fridge, Lily's worn textbooks piled on the floor because there was no shelf space left. Maya's life had become a cycle of work, worry, and waiting for the bills to stop coming, waiting for her mother to get better, waiting for something, anything, to change. She'd dropped out of community college to work full-time at the bakery, her dreams of studying illustration abandoned, her future reduced to a narrow path of survival. She'd never imagined she'd have a choice, let alone one that could erase all their debts with a single signature. That choice came on a Tuesday, just like any other. The bakery was warm, filled with the sweet, spicy aroma of cinnamon rolls and fresh bread, the air thick with the hum of ovens and the rustle of paper bags. Maya was wiping down the counter, her mind already on the list of errands she had to run after her shift, pick up Lily from school, drop off a prescription for her mother, stop by the grocery store for milk and bread, when her phone buzzed in her pocket. Unknown number. Normally, she'd ignore it. Unknown numbers were usually bill collectors, or telemarketers, or people who dialed the wrong number. But something about the timing, the quiet of the bakery, the weight of her worries pressing down on her, made her answer. Maya Chen. The voice was calm, cool, professional, with a sharp, precise edge that sent a small shiver down Maya's spine. It was a woman's voice, but there was no warmth in it, no kindness, just a clinical detachment, like she was reading from a script. This is Elena Voss, representing a private reproductive program. Your profile has been selected for a highly exclusive arrangement. Maya frowned, leaning against the counter. I think you have the wrong person. I didn't sign up for anything. We have your medical records, Miss Chen. Your genetic markers. Your omega status. You're a rare match, compatible with a specific alpha, one with significant resources. The terms are simple. You agree to carry 1 child to term, a legal carrier contract. In return, all your family's debts, medical, credit, outstanding loans, will be erased immediately. No strings attached. No further contact required after the birth. The words hung in the air, heavy and impossible, like a dream she hadn't dared to have. 1 child. All debts gone. Maya's throat went dry. She thought of the stacks of bills, the endless late-night worrying, the way her mother's eyes dimmed when she talked about her treatments, the way Lily tried to hide her own fears, putting on a brave face for her sister. She thought of the tiny apartment, the cold nights, the empty fridge some weeks. She thought of freedom, real, unshackled freedom, the kind that meant never looking at a bill and feeling sick, never choosing between medicine and food, never wondering how they'd make it through the month. It was a deal with the devil, she knew that. Carrying a child for a stranger, a powerful alpha who'd never even met her, who saw her as nothing more than a vessel, a means to an end. But what choice did she have? Her family was drowning, and this was the only lifeline she'd ever been offered. When? She whispered. 2 days. A car will pick you up at your apartment at 10 a.m. Be ready. And Miss Chin. The voice paused, sharp and final. Tell no one. This arrangement is confidential. Discretion is non-negotiable. The call ended. Maya stood there for a long time, staring at her phone, the bakery's warmth fading around her, the weight of the decision settling into her chest like a stone. She'd agreed to bear one pup, just one, to save her family. She had no idea that decision would change everything, that it would lead her to a cold, ruthless mafia alpha. That one pup would turn into 4. And that the woman who'd seen her as nothing more than a contract would end up burning the world down to keep her and her baby safe. The black sedan was sleek, silent, expensive, the kind of car that didn't belong in South Boston, that turned heads as it pulled up to Maya's apartment building, its tinted windows hiding whoever was inside. It was 2 days after the call, and Maya was standing on the sidewalk, a small duffel bag slung over her shoulder, her hands shaking slightly. She'd packed only the essentials, a few changes of clothes, her mother's favorite photo, a sketchbook and pencils, small, precious things that felt like pieces of her old life, the life she was leaving behind, at least for a while. Lily had been confused when Maya told her she'd be staying with a friend for a few months, her explanation vague, evasive. She couldn't tell her the truth, couldn't tell her 16-year-old sister that she was going to carry a child for a stranger, a powerful alpha, that she was making a deal that could break her if things went wrong. Lily had hugged her tight, her eyes bright with unshed tears, and made her promise to call every day, to come back soon. Maya had promised, her throat tight, knowing that some promises were harder to keep than others. The car's door opened, and a woman in a dark suit stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, an alpha, her scent sharp and cold, like winter air and iron, her face impassive, unreadable. She didn't speak, just gestured for Maya to get in. Maya climbed into the back seat, her heart racing. The interior was immaculate, leather seats, dark wood trim, the air cool and scented with that same sharp, cold alpha scent. There was no music, no small talk, just silence, thick and heavy, as the car pulled away from the curb, heading downtown, toward the glass and steel skyline of Boston's financial district. They drove for 20 minutes, the streets growing cleaner, the buildings taller, the crowds more polished, until they pulled up in front of a skyscraper that rose nearly 40 stories into the gray winter sky, its facade made of reflective glass that mirrored the frozen Charles River, glinting coldly in the weak sunlight. The building was massive, imposing, silent, an island of power in the middle of the city. This was Valkov Tower, headquarters of Valkov Enterprises, and the domain of Sasha Valkov, the woman Maya was about to meet, the alpha she'd agreed to carry a child for, the most feared and powerful mafia boss in Boston. The car pulled into a private underground garage, and Maya followed the silent alpha out of the car, her boots clicking against the concrete floor. They took a private elevator to the top floor, the doors sliding open to reveal a massive office, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city, the river glinting far below. The office was minimalist, cold, expensive darkwood desks, leather chairs, abstract paintings on the walls, no personal touches, no warmth, no signs of life. And standing near the window, looking out at the city, was Sasha Valkov. Maya's breath caught. She was tall. Impossibly tall, Easily 6 feet, broad-shouldered, lean but muscular, her frame honed by years of power and violence. She wore a dark, tailored pantsuit, crisp white shirt, no tie, the top button undone, revealing a sliver of pale skin and the edge of a collarbone. Her hair was dark, black as night, cut in a sharp, angular style that framed her face, one side tucked behind her ear. Her jaw was sharp, angular, her cheekbones high, her lips thin, pressed into a cold, unyielding line. But it was her eyes that froze Maya to the spot. Gray. Icy, storm-cloud gray, sharp as shards of glass, cold, calculating, unreadable. They swept over Maya from head to toe, slow, deliberate, missing nothing, assessing, judging, weighing her worth. And her scent. It hit Maya like a physical force, thick and overwhelming, sharp and cold, like winter storms and iron and smoke, dominant, possessive, dangerous, the scent of an alpha who ruled with fear, who took what she wanted, who never lost. It wrapped around Maya, seeping into her bones, making her omega instincts flare, making her want to drop her head, to submit, to be good. This was Sasha Valkov. Cold, ruthless, powerful. A woman who'd built her empire on blood and fear, who was feared by everyone in the city, who had no weaknesses, no soft spots, no mercy. And Maya was here to carry her child. Maya Chin. Her voice was low, deep, smooth, calm, steady, no inflection, no warmth, just a statement, a fact. She turned away from the window, taking a step toward Maya, her boots silent on the polished floor. Maya nodded, her throat tight. Yes, ma'am. Sasha's lips twitched, almost imperceptibly, a cold, humorless smile. No need for ma'am. We're business partners. Nothing more. She paused, her gray eyes locking onto Maya's, sharp and unyielding. You understand the terms. One child. Carried to term. No complications. No contact after birth. Your family's debts are erased. All of them. It was not a question. Maya nodded again, her heart racing. I understand. Good. Sasha turned back to the window, her gaze sweeping over the city, her posture rigid, distant, as if Maya was already forgotten, a minor detail, a means to an end. The contract will be signed today. You'll be moved to a residence on the edge of the city, secure, private. A medical team will oversee the pregnancy. You'll follow their instructions. No deviations. No mistakes. Do we have an agreement? Yes, Maya whispered. Sasha didn't look at her. Dismissed. The lawyer will handle the paperwork. It was over. The meeting lasted less than 5 minutes. No warmth. No kindness. No curiosity about Maya, about her life, her fears, her hopes. Just cold, clinical business. Maya left the office, her head spinning, her mind reeling. She'd signed the contract, her signature scrawled on the paper, binding her to Sasha Valkov, to one child, to a life she couldn't yet imagine. She had no idea that in a few short weeks, everything would change. That one child would become 4. That the cold, distant alpha would become her everything. That the contract would become a family. The residence was a modern townhouse on the edge of the city, overlooking a frozen stretch of the Charles River, quiet, secluded, surrounded by tall trees and a high-security fence. It was nothing like Maya's tiny apartment, nearly 4,000 square feet, polished hardwood floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, quiet hallways that echoed when she walked through them, multiple bedrooms, a gourmet kitchen, a spacious living room with a fireplace, a private backyard with a patio and a garden, now covered in snow. It was beautiful, luxurious, empty, cold, like a museum, not a home. Maya was given a bedroom on the 2nd floor, large, bright, with a king-sized bed, a walk-in closet, an ensuite bathroom with a soaking tub and a glass shower. The walls were white, the furniture dark wood, the decor minimalist, no personal touches, no warmth. It felt like a hotel room. Temporary. Impersonal. A place to stay, not to live. A medical team arrived the next morning, 2 doctors, 3 nurses, all betas, professional, efficient, kind but detached. They ran tests, drew blood, reviewed Maya's medical history, explained the process, the medications, the schedule. Everything was carefully planned, meticulously organized, no detail overlooked. Sasha Valkov believed in control, and that control extended to every aspect of the arrangement. The first few weeks passed in a quiet, monotonous routine. Maya woke up early, ate breakfast prepared by a private chef, nutritious, balanced, designed to support a pregnancy, then attended daily medical checkups, blood work, ultrasounds, vitamins, medications. She rested when the staff told her to, walked along the private path behind the house overlooking the river when the weather was nice, read books, sketched in her sketchbook, tried to fill the silence. Sasha rarely came to the house. She visited twice in the first month, each time for less than 5 minutes. She'd arrive with her security team, all tall, broad-shouldered alphas, their scents sharp and dangerous, walk into the living room, exchange a few brief words with the medical coordinator, then look at Maya with that same cold, distant, unreadable expression, and leave. She never spoke to Maya directly, never asked how she was feeling, never showed any interest in her at all. It was exactly what Maya had expected. A business arrangement. Nothing more. Maya tried not to mind. She told herself this was temporary, that she just had to get through the pregnancy, give birth to the pup, and then she'd be free, her family's debts erased, her life back to normal. She focused on the end goal, on the freedom waiting for her at the end of 9 months, and pushed aside the loneliness, the fear, the ache of being invisible. But loneliness crept in anyway, slow and insidious, settling into the quiet corners of the big, empty house, wrapping around Maya like a cold blanket. She missed Lily, missed her mother, missed the bakery, missed the noise and chaos and warmth of her old life, missed being seen, being noticed, being more than a vessel. Sometimes, late at night, she'd stand by the bedroom window, looking out at the frozen river, the snow falling softly, the city lights twinkling in the distance, and wonder what she'd gotten herself into. She'd wonder if she'd made a mistake, if the debt was worth this, if she'd ever be able to go back to who she was before. But then she'd think of her mother's medical bills, of Lily's future, of the freedom waiting for her, and she'd push the doubts away. She'd made her choice. Now she had to live with it. The second month brought a confirmation. Maya was pregnant. She'd known it was possible, of course, but hearing the doctor say it out loud, seeing the positive test result, felt surreal, unreal. It made the arrangement feel more real, more permanent, made the pup feel less like a concept and more like a tiny, growing life inside her. She was happy in a way, relieved. It meant the plan was working, that she was doing her part, that she was one step closer to freedom. But she was also scared. Scared of the pregnancy, of the birth, of what would happen after. Scared of Sasha Valkov, of her coldness, her power, her danger. Scared of being alone, of raising a child she'd have to leave behind, of never seeing them again. She pushed the fear aside, focusing on the positive, on the end goal. She had no idea that the next ultrasound would change everything. That the single heartbeat they expected would turn into 4. That her quiet, controlled life would be thrown into chaos. That the cold, distant alpha would finally see her. The ultrasound room was small, bright, clinical, white walls, an examination table, a large ultrasound machine in the corner, its screen dark, waiting. The air was cool, scented with antiseptic, quiet except for the hum of the machine and the soft rustle of the doctor's coat. Maya lay on the examination table, her shirt lifted, her stomach exposed, cold gel spread across her skin, waiting. It was her first real ultrasound, the first time they'd be able to see the pup, to hear the heartbeat. She was nervous, her hands clasped tightly together, her heart racing, a mix of excitement and fear swirling in her chest. The doctor, a middle-aged beta woman with kind eyes and a calm demeanor, smiled gently at her. "Relax, Maya. Everything's going to be fine. We'll get a good look at the baby today, hear the heartbeat. It's a big step." Maya nodded, taking a deep breath. "I know. I'm just nervous. It's normal. First-time jitters." The doctor turned on the ultrasound machine, the screen lighting up, casting a soft glow across the room. She picked up the transducer, a small, handheld device, and pressed it gently against Maya's stomach, moving it slowly, carefully, back and forth. The room fell silent. Maya watched the screen, her eyes wide, waiting to see the tiny shape of the pup, to hear the faint, fluttering heartbeat. At first, there was nothing but static, gray, and blurry. Then, slowly, shapes began to form, faint and indistinct, small white blobs against the gray background. The doctor's smile faded. Her eyebrows lifted slightly in surprise. She moved the transducer again, slower, more carefully, her gaze fixed on the screen, focused, intent. Maya's heart skipped a beat. Something was wrong. "Doctor," she whispered, her voice tight. "Is everything okay?" The doctor didn't answer right away. She leaned closer to the screen, studying the images, her expression serious, thoughtful. She moved the transducer once more, adjusting the angle, the pressure, her brow furrowed. Then she exhaled slowly, a soft, quiet breath, and turned to Maya, her expression calm, but careful, serious. "Maya," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "I need you to listen to me carefully. What I'm about to tell you is unexpected, but it's not dangerous. Not right now." Maya's blood ran cold. Her throat went dry. "What is it?" she whispered, terrified. "What's wrong?" The doctor turned the screen slightly so Maya could see it more clearly. She pointed to the screen, to 4 distinct, faint shapes, for tiny white blobs, each one pulsing, flickering, in a steady, strong rhythm. 4 heartbeats. "I'm sorry, Maya," she said softly, "but you're not having one baby. You're having 4. The world stopped. For a moment, Maya couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process the words. 4. For babies. 4 heartbeats. The contract had been for one child. Now it was 4. Maya stared at the screen, at the 4 tiny, flickering heartbeats, each one steady and strong, each one a life growing inside her, and felt her mind reel, her world spin. This couldn't be happening. It was impossible. Omega pregnancies rarely resulted in multiples, especially not 4. It was extremely rare, almost unheard of. But the proof was right there on the screen. 4 distinct heartbeats. 4 tiny shapes. 4 lives. The doctor explained it carefully, calmly, her voice steady, reassuring. Multiple births were extremely rare in Omega pregnancies, but not impossible, especially when genetic compatibility markers aligned in certain ways, when the match was as rare and perfect as Maya and Sasha's. She assured her that the medical team would monitor everything carefully, that the early signs were strong and stable, that the babies were healthy, that Maya was healthy. But Maya barely heard her. Her mind was stuck on one thing. Sasha Valkov. What would she say? What would she do? The contract had been built around one child. The financial arrangements, the legal documentation, the housing, the medical schedule, everything had been designed for a single birth. For babies changed everything. Would she cancel the contract? Would she be angry? Would she demand Maya terminate the pregnancy? Would she walk away, leaving Maya alone, responsible for 4 babies, with no support, no resources, no one to turn to? Terror flooded Maya's chest, sharp and cold, overwhelming. She'd agreed to 1. Now she had 4. And she had no idea what the cold, ruthless mafia alpha would do when she found out. Maya walked back to the townhouse in a daze, the ultrasound images clutched tightly in her hand, the paper thin and crinkled, the 4 tiny heartbeats staring up at her, a silent reminder of the chaos that had just been unleashed. Snow was falling again, soft and slow, covering the ground, the trees, the river, the world quiet and white, peaceful, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside Maya's chest. She sat at the kitchen table for nearly an hour, staring at the ultrasound images, her mind racing, her heart pounding, trying to imagine Sasha Valkov's reaction. Anger, frustration, disappointment, annoyance, ruthlessness. She could see it all, the cold gray eyes hardening, the thin lips pressing into a tighter line, the sharp jaw tightening, the scent growing sharper, colder, more dangerous. She could imagine the anger, the frustration, the way Sasha would see this as a complication, a problem, a mistake, a breach of the contract. She could imagine Sasha walking away, leaving her alone. The thought made Maya's chest ache, sharp and painful, a mix of fear and grief. She didn't want to be alone. Not with 4 babies. Not when she'd signed her life away, when she'd given up everything to save her family, when she'd thought she had a plan, a future, a way out. The security system chimed softly, breaking the silence. Maya's head snapped up. The front door opened, and Sasha Valkov stepped inside. She removed her coat slowly, handing it to one of her security staff, who waited near the hallway, then dismissed the rest of the team with a small, sharp motion of her hand. The door closed, leaving them alone in the quiet house. Sasha stood in the entryway, tall, broad-shouldered, her dark pantsuit crisp, her black hair neat, her gray eyes sweeping over the living room, calm, composed, unreadable. Her scent filled the room, sharp and cold, dominant, possessive, the scent of a woman who was in control, who knew what she wanted, who took it without hesitation. She turned her gaze to Maya, sitting at the kitchen table, her expression calm, attentive, curious. The medical team informed me there was an update, she said, her voice low, deep, steady, no inflection, no warmth, no anger, no surprise. Just a statement, a fact. Maya's hands shook. She hesitated for a moment, then slowly, carefully, slid the folder containing the ultrasound images across the table toward Sasha. Sasha walked over to the table, her boots silent on the hardwood floor, and sat down across from Maya. She picked up the folder, opened it carefully, and studied the ultrasound images, her gray eyes moving slowly, deliberately, across the printed screen captures, her expression calm, focused, unreadable. The kitchen clock ticked quietly in the background. Second after second. Minute after minute. No reaction. No sound. No movement. Maya held her breath, waiting, terrified, her heart racing, her mind spinning. Then, slowly, Sasha's eyebrows lifted, slightly, just enough to reveal that the information had surprised her. 4, she said, after a moment. The single word was spoken quietly, thoughtfully, not with alarm, not with anger, not with frustration. Just contemplative. Maya nodded, her throat tight. Yes, that's what the doctor confirmed this morning. Another quiet pause. Sasha looked back at the images, her gaze focused, intent, thoughtful. Maya waited for the anger, for the frustration, for the cold dismissal. But it never came. Instead, Sasha's expression shifted into something more contemplative, as though she was already calculating the future, weighing the options, planning, strategizing, in ways Maya couldn't yet understand. Finally, she closed the folder and placed it carefully on the table. She looked back at Maya, her gray eyes calm, steady, decisive. "Then the agreement changes," she said. Her voice was calm, but there was a new edge to it, a quiet certainty, a firm resolve. "From this moment forward, your health and the safety of these 4 children become my highest priority." Maya stared at her, stunned, shocked, unable to believe what she'd just heard. No anger, no frustration, no cancellation, just protection. A promise, a commitment. Sasha Valkov, the cold, ruthless mafia alpha, the woman who'd seen Maya as nothing more than a contract, a vessel, a means to an end, had just declared that Maya and her 4 unborn babies were her highest priority. Maya didn't understand it. She couldn't process it. But as she looked into Sasha's gray eyes, calm, steady, resolute, she knew one thing. Everything had changed. The contract was no longer just a business arrangement. It was something more. Something neither of them had planned. Something neither of them could walk away from. From that evening forward, the rhythm of Maya's life changed in ways she never could have expected. Sasha didn't raise her voice. She didn't show dramatic emotion. She didn't gush or soften or become affectionate overnight. But the decisions she made over the next few days made it clear that the discovery of 4 babies had shifted something important in her mind, something fundamental. The townhouse that had once felt quiet and temporary, a place to wait out the pregnancy, suddenly became the center of an organized system designed entirely around Maya's health and the future of the 4 children. Within a week, the medical visits doubled. New specialists arrived, perinatologists, neonatologists, nutritionists, therapists, to review every detail of the pregnancy, to monitor Maya's health, to ensure the babies were growing strong and healthy. An entire floor of the townhouse was converted into a private medical suite, equipped with state-of-the-art monitoring equipment, examination rooms, a small operating room, everything needed to care for Maya and the 4 babies around the clock. Nurses rotated through 24-hour shifts, checking on Maya's vital signs, monitoring the baby's heartbeats, ensuring she was comfortable, that she was eating well, that she was resting enough. Nutritionists reviewed every meal that appeared in the kitchen, crafting personalized menus designed to support a multiple pregnancy, rich in vitamins, minerals, protein, healthy fats, everything Maya and the babies needed to thrive. Security personnel quietly expanded their presence around the property, more guards, more cameras, more patrols, ensuring the townhouse was safe, secure, impenetrable. None of it felt threatening or controlling. It felt protective, careful, meticulous. Like the careful construction of a protective environment, the kind built around something extremely valuable, something precious, something worth guarding with your life. Sasha herself began visiting more often. At first, the visits remained brief and professional. She'd arrive in the early evening, after finishing her work in the city, speak with the medical team in the study, review the day's reports, ask questions about Maya's health, about the baby's progress, then stop by the kitchen or living room where Maya usually spent her evenings. Her questions were simple but specific. How are you feeling today? Did you eat all your meals? Are you experiencing any unusual symptoms? How are the babies moving? She listened closely to the answers, her gray eyes focused, attentive, missing nothing, her expression calm, thoughtful, concerned. It surprised Maya how closely she listened, how much she paid attention, how genuinely she seemed to care. She was still cold, still distant, still reserved. She didn't smile, didn't laugh, didn't share personal details, didn't talk about her life, her past, her fears, her hopes. But there was a new warmth in her presence, a new softness in her gaze, a new tenderness in her touch, when she occasionally brushed a strand of hair from Maya's face or placed a hand gently on her shoulder to steady her, to comfort her. The first time the babies moved strongly enough for Maya to notice was about 3 weeks after the ultrasound discovery. She was sitting on the couch in the living room, reading a book, the fire crackling softly in the fireplace, the room warm and quiet, when a sudden flutter rolled across her stomach, like a tiny ripple beneath the surface of water, soft, gentle, unmistakable. Maya froze, holding her breath, her heart racing, her eyes wide. The sensation repeated itself again. A few seconds later, another soft flutter, another tiny movement. It was real. The babies were real. For tiny lives, growing inside her, moving, kicking, squirming, alive. It made the entire situation suddenly real in a way the medical charts, the ultrasound images, the doctor's explanations never had. It made the 4 babies feel less like a concept, a complication, a problem, and more like her children, precious, beloved, hers. Later that evening, Sasha arrived just after sunset. The sky outside the windows had turned a deep, rich winter blue, the last traces of sunlight fading over the river, the lights of the nearby bridge twinkling softly in the growing darkness. Maya was standing in the kitchen, pouring a glass of water, when Sasha stepped inside. She paused in the doorway, her gray eyes locking onto Maya's face, her expression calm, attentive, curious. "Something happened," she said, calmly. It was not a question. Maya hesitated, then slowly, gently, placed her hand against her stomach, covering the spot where she'd felt the movement. "They moved," she said, quietly, softly, her voice thick with emotion. For the first time. For the first time since they'd met, Sasha's usual calm composure shifted into visible curiosity, surprise, wonder. She walked closer, stopping beside the kitchen counter, her gaze fixed on Maya's stomach, her gray eyes wide, focused, intent. "All 4?" she asked, her voice quiet, thoughtful, soft. "I think so," Maya answered, with a small, uncertain laugh, her eyes bright with tears. The movement returned again, almost as if the babies had heard the conversation, as if they were responding to their mother's voice. Maya instinctively rested both hands across her stomach, gently, protectively. Sasha watched for a moment, silent, still, her expression unreadable. Then she looked up at Maya, her gray eyes soft, unsure, hesitant. "May I?" she asked. The question surprised Maya, because nothing about Sasha had ever suggested hesitation before. Nothing about her had ever been unsure, or gentle, or vulnerable. Maya nodded slowly, her throat tight. Sasha placed her hand carefully, gently, where Maya indicated, her palm warm against Maya's stomach, her touch light, tentative, reverent. For several seconds, nothing happened. Silence. Stillness. Then another gentle movement pressed outward beneath her palm, soft, faint, unmistakable. Sasha's expression changed in a subtle but unmistakable way. The distant businesswoman, the cold, ruthless mafia alpha who had once treated the situation as a contract, a business arrangement, a means to an end, seemed to disappear for a brief moment. In her place stood someone quiet, amazed, awestruck. Someone absorbing the reality that 4 small lives were growing beneath her hand, 4 children who were hers. Her blood. Her flesh. Her legacy. When she finally withdrew her hand, she did not step away immediately. Instead, she looked at Maya with a thoughtful expression that was far warmer than anything Maya had seen before, soft, tender, gentle, a quiet wonder in her gray eyes. "They are stronger than expected," she said, softly, quietly, her voice thick with emotion. Something in her voice made Maya realize that the agreement they had signed months earlier, the cold, clinical contract that had brought them together, was slowly transforming into something neither of them had planned. Something deeper. Something real. Something like family. As the weeks passed, winter slowly began giving way to the first hints of early spring. The snow melted, the ice on the river cracked, the days grew longer, the sunlight warmer, softer, brighter. With each passing week, the presence of the 4 babies became impossible to ignore. Maya's stomach grew larger, rounder, heavier. The babies grew stronger, bigger, more active. Their movements were no longer soft flutters, but clear, determined kicks and pushes, strong enough to see from the outside, strong enough to make Maya gasp sometimes, to laugh, to wince, to feel a deep, fierce love swell in her chest. A love she'd never known she was capable of. The townhouse that had once felt like a temporary place, a waiting room, now carried the quiet rhythm of a growing family, the soft hum of medical equipment, the gentle rustle of nurses' coats, the quiet laughter of staff, the warm glow of lamps in the evening. The faint, steady thrum of 4 tiny heartbeats, a constant, reassuring presence. It was during this time that Maya experienced her first heat since arriving at the townhouse. She'd been so focused on the pregnancy, on the medical appointments, on the babies, that she'd almost forgotten her omega biology, the cycles that came every few months, the intense wave of arousal and need that crashed over her without warning. But her body hadn't forgotten. It started as a warmth low in her belly, a subtle, creeping heat that spread through her limbs, making her skin feel too sensitive, too tight. At first, she thought it was just the pregnancy, the babies moving, her body adjusting. But then the scent hit her. Her own scent, normally soft and sweet, like vanilla and honey, intensified, grew richer, more potent, filling the room with a sweetness that was almost cloying. It was a signal, an invitation, a call to any alpha within range. And there was one alpha very close by. Sasha arrived at the townhouse that evening earlier than usual, her work in the city finished sooner than expected. She stepped through the front door, removing her coat, her mind already turning toward the evening ahead, checking in with the medical team, sitting with Maya by the fire, maybe feeling the babies move again. But the moment the door closed behind her, she stopped. The scent hit her like a wave. Sweet. Overwhelming. Omega in heat. Sasha's gray eyes darkened, her nostrils flaring as she drew in a deep breath. Her alpha instincts roared to life, primal, possessive, protective. Every cell in her body screamed to find the source, to claim, to protect, to keep. Maya, she called out, her voice lower than usual, rougher. A soft whimper came from the living room. Sasha moved without thinking, her boots silent on the hardwood floor as she strode toward the sound. She found Maya curled up on the couch, a blanket pulled around her shoulders, her face flushed, her breathing shallow, her eyes glassy with the intensity of her heat. "I'm sorry," Maya whispered, her voice shaking. "I didn't know it was coming. I forgot my cycle, I'm sorry." "Don't apologize," Sasha said, her voice firm but gentle. She stopped a few feet away, her hands clenched at her sides, fighting every instinct that told her to close the distance, to touch, to claim. "You're not on suppressants?" Sasha asked. Maya shook her head, a tear slipping down her cheek. "The pregnancy. The doctors said I couldn't take them while carrying." Sasha nodded slowly, her jaw tight. She understood. Heat was natural, necessary for conception, for bonding. But Maya was pregnant, already carrying Sasha's children. A heat now would be intense, painful without an alpha's touch, without the soothing presence of a mate. "You need help," Sasha said quietly. It wasn't a question. Maya's blush deepened, spreading down her neck. "I don't want to make you uncomfortable. This isn't part of the contract." "The contract," Sasha said, her voice low, "no longer matters." She crossed the room and knelt beside the couch, bringing herself level with Maya's flushed face. Up close, the scent was even stronger, sweet vanilla, warm honey, laced with the desperate edge of an omega in need. Sasha's hands trembled slightly as she reached out, brushing the damp hair from Maya's forehead. Her touch was gentle, careful, reverent. "I won't hurt you," Sasha said, her gray eyes holding Maya's. "But I won't leave you to suffer alone either. Tell me what you need." Maya's breath caught. What she needed, what her body craved, was overwhelming. She needed Sasha's scent, her touch, her presence. She needed to feel safe, claimed, protected. She needed the alpha to stay. "Just don't go," Maya whispered, her voice breaking. "Please, stay with me." Sasha's expression softened, a crack in the ice Maya had never seen before. She shifted, sitting on the floor beside the couch, her back against the cushions, close enough that Maya could feel her warmth, smell her scent, sharp cedar, cool rain, a hint of smoke. "I'm not going anywhere," Sasha said quietly. Maya shifted on the couch, turning towards Sasha, her body seeking the alpha's warmth instinctively. Her heat made her bold, desperate, her omega instincts overriding her usual shyness. She reached out, her fingers brushing Sasha's arm, her skin tingling at the contact. Sasha stiffened for a moment, her muscles going taut beneath Maya's touch. But she didn't pull away. Instead, she let out a slow, controlled breath and relaxed, her hand coming up to rest over Maya's. "You're burning up," Sasha murmured, her thumb tracing small circles on the back of Maya's hand. "I know," Maya breathed. "It hurts." "I know." Sasha's voice was soft, pained. "I wish I could take it from you." For a long moment, they sat in silence, the only sounds Maya's uneven breathing and the crackle of the fire. Then Sasha spoke again, her voice hesitant, something Maya had never heard from her before. "There's something I can do. Something that might help. But I need your permission first." Maya looked up at her confused. "What?" Sasha's gray eyes met hers, dark with an emotion Maya couldn't name. "I consent you. Mark you temporarily. An alpha's scent can soothe an omega's heat. It mimics the presence of a mate, calms the biological response. It won't be the same as a full bonding mark. But it might help." Maya's heart pounded. She knew what Sasha was offering. Scenting was intimate, not as permanent as a mating bite, but deeply personal, a claiming of sorts. It would leave Sasha's scent on her skin for days, a signal to every other alpha that Maya was taken, protected, claimed. This wasn't in the contract. But then again, nothing about this situation was in the contract anymore. "Okay," Maya whispered. Sasha moved slowly, giving Maya every chance to change her mind. She shifted closer, her body warm and solid beside Maya on the couch. She reached out, her fingers trembling slightly. Maya noticed, surprised that the powerful alpha could tremble at all, and gently tilted Maya's chin up, exposing the curve of her neck. The scent gland there was swollen, sensitive, a darker pink against Maya's pale skin. Sasha's breath ghosted over it, and Maya shivered, her eyes fluttering closed. "Tell me if you want me to stop," Sasha murmured, her lips hovering just above Maya's skin. "Don't stop," Maya breathed. Sasha pressed her lips to the gland, soft, gentle, a whisper of contact. Maya gasped, her body arching toward the alpha, her hands fisting in the fabric of Sasha's shirt. The sensation was electric, sending waves of pleasure and relief through her overheated body. Sasha's scent intensified as she nuzzled against Maya's neck, her own glands releasing calming pheromones that mixed with Maya's, soothing the sharp edges of the heat. She wasn't biting, not yet, not fully, but the scenting was intimate, possessive, real. "There," Sasha murmured against Maya's skin. "Breathe, Maya. I've got you." Maya let out a shaky breath, her body relaxing for the first time in hours. The heat was still there, a dull ache in her core, but the sharp, desperate edge had softened, soothed by Sasha's presence, by her scent, by the warmth of her body so close. "Thank you," Maya whispered. Sasha pulled back just enough to look at her, her gray eyes soft, her usual coldness melted away. She reached up, brushing a tear from Maya's cheek that Maya hadn't even realized she'd shed. "Rest," Sasha said quietly. "I'll stay until it passes." She meant it, Maya realized. Sasha Valkov, the cold, ruthless mafia alpha, was going to sit on the floor beside her couch all night, holding her hand, scenting her, keeping the worst of her heat at bay. This wasn't business anymore. This was something else entirely. The heat lasted 3 days. 3 days of Sasha staying by Maya's side, leaving only for brief periods to handle essential business calls, always returning within the hour. 3 days of scenting, of quiet conversations in the dark, of Sasha holding Maya through the worst of the waves, murmuring soft reassurances, her deep voice a steady anchor in the storm. 3 days that changed everything between them. By the end of the 3rd day, the heat had faded, leaving Maya exhausted but calm. She slept for nearly 12 hours straight, curled up on the couch, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like Sasha, cedar and rain and smoke. When she woke, Sasha was sitting in the armchair across from her, reading a document, her glasses perched on her nose, something Maya had never seen before. The sight made her chest ache with an unexpected tenderness. "You stayed," Maya said, her voice hoarse with sleep. Sasha looked up, removing her glasses slowly. "I said I would." "You didn't have to," Maya wanted to say. It wasn't in the contract. But she didn't. Because they both knew the contract didn't matter anymore. Over the following weeks, the distance between them continued to shrink. Sasha's visits became longer, more frequent. She started eating dinner with Maya in the evenings, sitting across from her at the small kitchen table, asking about her day, about the babies, about her sketches. Maya had shown her the sketchbook one night, embarrassed at first. But Sasha had looked through every page with quiet focus, her gray eyes softening at the drawings of flowers, of birds, of the river outside the window. "You're talented," Sasha had said simply, handing the sketchbook back. "You shouldn't let that talent go to waste." Maya had blushed, ducking her head. "I dropped out of college. Art school was too expensive." Sasha had been quiet for a long moment, her expression thoughtful. Then she'd said, "After the babies are born, if you want to go back, I'll pay for it." Maya had stared at her speechless. "It's not part of the contract," Sasha had added, almost defensively. "It's just, you deserve to pursue your dreams. That's all." That was the moment Maya realized she was falling in love with Sasha Valkov. Not because she was powerful or rich or protected her, but because beneath the cold exterior, beneath the ruthless mafia boss, there was someone who noticed the small things, who remembered that Maya liked honey in her tea, who made sure the fireplace was lit every evening because Maya had mentioned once that she got cold easily, who looked at her sketches with genuine interest, not just polite obligation. Someone who was good. It happened on a night in late spring. The windows were open, letting in the warm, fragrant air, the first real warmth of the season. Maya was sitting on the patio, her feet propped up, her hands resting on her swollen belly, watching the fireflies flicker in the garden. Sasha found her there, stepping out onto the patio with 2 glasses of lemonade. The chef had made it fresh that afternoon, and Maya had mentioned she was craving something cold and sweet. "I thought you might want this," Sasha said, setting one glass on the small table beside Maya's chair. Maya smiled up at her, her heart skipping. "Thank you. You didn't have to bring it out yourself. You have staff for that." "I wanted to." Sasha pulled up a chair, sitting beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the fireflies, listening to the soft chirp of crickets. The moon was full, casting silver light across the garden, illuminating Sasha's sharp features, softening them somehow. "Sasha," Maya said quietly after a long pause. Why did you agree to this? The contract, I mean. Why did you want a child so badly that you'd?" She trailed off, unsure how to finish. Sasha was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than Maya had ever heard it. "I'm alone," she said simply. "My parents died when I was young. My grandfather raised me. He was the one who built Valkov Enterprises, who built the empire. But he was cold, distant. He taught me that emotion was weakness, that love was a liability." She paused, her gray eyes fixed on the moon. "When he died, I was 23. I had billions of dollars, a criminal empire, and no one to share it with. No family. No one who cared if I lived or died." Maya's chest ached. She reached out, her hand finding Sasha's, their fingers intertwining. "I thought," Sasha continued, "that if I had a child, an heir, I wouldn't be so alone. That someone would carry my name, my legacy. That maybe I could love them, even if I didn't know how. And now?" Maya whispered. Sasha turned to look at her, her gray eyes bright with unshed tears. Maya had never seen Sasha cry before. "Now I have you," Sasha said, her voice breaking slightly. "And 4 babies. And I'm terrified, Maya. Terrified because I don't know how to do this. How to be a mother, how to be a partner, how to love without destroying everything I touch. But I want to try. For you. For them. I want to try." Maya's heart felt like it was going to burst. She'd been waiting for this, for Sasha to let her in, to show her the vulnerability beneath the ice. And now that she had, Maya knew she couldn't go back. Didn't want to go back. "I love you," Maya said, the words spilling out before she could stop them. "I know this wasn't supposed to be real. I know we had a contract. But I love you, Sasha. I love the way you remember the little things. I love the way you look at the babies when you think I'm not watching. I love the way your hand feels in mine." Sasha's breath caught. She stared at Maya, her gray eyes wide, vulnerable, open. "You love me," she repeated, as if the words were in a foreign language. "I love you," Maya said again, stronger this time. Sasha surged forward, her hands cupping Maya's face, her lips crashing against Maya's in a kiss that was desperate and tender and everything. It was their first real kiss, not a gentle brush of lips, not a hesitant touch, but a claiming, a promise, a declaration. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sasha pressed her forehead against Maya's, her eyes closed. "I love you too," she whispered. "I didn't think I was capable of it. But I love you, Maya. More than I've ever loved anything in my life." That night, Sasha carried Maya to her bedroom, the master bedroom, not the guest room Maya had been staying in. She laid her down gently on the large bed, her touch reverent, and crawled in beside her, pulling Maya into her arms. "I want to bond with you," Sasha said quietly, her lips brushing Maya's ear. "Fully. Not just scenting, a real bonding mark. But only if you want it. Only if you're sure." Maya's heart raced. A bonding mark was permanent, a bite on the mating gland that would tie them together for life, that would make their scents intertwine, that would announce to the world that they were mates. It was everything Maya had never dared to dream of. "Yes," she said, without hesitation. "I'm sure." Sasha's arms tightened around her. "It might hurt a little." "I don't care." Sasha kissed her again, soft and slow, before trailing her lips down Maya's jaw, down her neck, until she reached the scent gland, the same one she'd scented during Maya's heat, now swollen and sensitive again, this time with anticipation rather than pain. "I love you," Sasha murmured against her skin. Then she bit down. The pain was sharp, brief, a flash of heat that made Maya gasp, her body arching into Sasha's. But then the pain faded, replaced by something else. Something warm and golden that spread through her veins like honey, like sunlight, like home. She could feel Sasha, not just her body, not just her scent, but herself. Her emotions, her thoughts, her love, a golden thread connecting them, binding them together, forever. Sasha pulled back, her lips stained with a drop of Maya's blood, her gray eyes glowing with a fierce, possessive love. "Mine," she said, her voice low and rough. "Yours," Maya agreed, her hand coming up to touch the fresh mark on her neck. "And you're mine." "Yours," Sasha repeated, and for the first time since Maya had met her, she smiled. A real smile, warm and bright, reaching her eyes. It was the most beautiful thing Maya had ever seen. The bonding changed everything and nothing. Everything, because Maya could feel Sasha now, a constant warmth in the back of her mind, a sense of rightness she'd never experienced before. She knew when Sasha was near, could feel her emotions calm, focused, but underneath, a deep, fierce love that took Maya's breath away. Nothing, because Sasha was still Sasha. Still busy, still powerful, still carrying the weight of an empire on her shoulders. But now, when she came home at night, she came home to Maya. To their babies. To their family. The medical team continued their careful monitoring as Maya entered the final weeks of the pregnancy. Carrying 4 babies was no small feat. Her body was strained, her belly so large she could barely move without assistance, her back aching, her feet swollen. Sasha doted on her. She hired a pregnancy massage therapist to come to the house 3 times a week. She made sure Maya had everything she could possibly want: books, art supplies, her favorite snacks. When Maya couldn't sleep because the babies were kicking, Sasha would sit beside her in bed, her hand on Maya's belly, talking to the babies in a low, soothing voice until they settled. "You're going to be an amazing mother," Maya told her one night, watching Sasha's face as she spoke softly to the 4 tiny lives growing inside Maya. Sasha looked up surprised. "You think so?" "I know so." Maya smiled, her hand covering Sasha's. "Look at how you take care of me. Look at how much you already love them. They're lucky to have you." Sasha's eyes glistened. She leaned down, pressing a kiss to Maya's belly, then another to Maya's lips. "We're lucky to have you," she said. "You're the one carrying them. You're the one sacrificing your body, your health, your comfort. I can never repay you for that." "It's not about repayment," Maya said softly. "Not anymore." "No," Sasha agreed. "It's not." The first contraction started at 3 a.m., 3 weeks before the expected due date. Maya woke with a gasp, her hand flying to her stomach, her body tensing against the wave of pain that rolled through her. Beside her, Sasha was awake instantly. Bonded mates could feel each other's distress, and Maya's fear had jolted Sasha from sleep like an electric shock. "Maya? What's wrong?" "The babies," Maya panted. "They're coming." Sasha moved with terrifying efficiency. Within 60 seconds, she'd called the medical team, pulled on clothes, and was helping Maya out of bed, supporting her weight as they made their way downstairs. The medical team was already assembling in the private birthing suite, the room that had been prepared months ago, just in case. Doctors, nurses, neonatal specialists, all of them moving with calm, practiced precision. Sasha helped Maya onto the bed, holding her hand as another contraction hit, this one stronger than the last. "You're okay," Sasha said, her voice steady even though Maya could feel her fear through the bond, sharp and cold, barely contained. "I'm right here. We've prepared for this. Everything will be fine." Maya wanted to believe her, but the pain was overwhelming, more intense than anything she'd ever experienced. She cried out, squeezing Sasha's hand so hard she was afraid she might break it. "Breathe with me," Sasha said, leaning close, her breath warm against Maya's ear. "In through your nose, out through your mouth. Slow, deep breaths. You're the strongest person I know, Maya. You can do this." Maya followed Sasha's lead, gasping in air, letting it out slowly, her body trembling as the contraction peaked and ebbed. When it was over, she slumped against the pillows, exhausted. "They're coming so fast," she whispered, scared. "I know," Sasha said, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "But we're together. You won't do this alone." "Never." The hours that followed were a blur of pain and determination. Contractions came faster and harder, 2 minutes apart, then one, each one a wave that crashed over Maya, leaving her breathless and trembling. Sasha stayed with her every step of the way, holding her hand, wiping her sweat, whispering words of encouragement, breathing with her, feeling her pain as if it were her own. When the doctor finally said, "It's time to push," Maya didn't hesitate. She dug deep, drawing on every reserve of strength. She had Sasha's hand in hers, her voice in her ear, the sound of the 4 heartbeats on the monitor spurring her on. "Push, Maya, push," Sasha urged, her voice tight with emotion. "You're almost there. I can feel them, they're ready." Maya pushed, her body screaming, her vision blacking out at the edges, but she didn't stop. Not when the doctor called out, "I see the first head." Not when Sasha's grip tightened, her breath catching. Not when the first cry, loud, strong, perfect, echoed through the room. A girl. Small, pink, squirming, her lungs strong as she cried, her tiny fists clenched. The nurses quickly wrapped her in a warm blanket, checking her vitals, while the doctor urged Maya on. 1 down, 3 to go. Keep pushing, second baby's right behind. Maya pushed again, tears streaming down her face, a mix of pain and joy and relief. The second baby came quickly, another girl, just as loud and strong as the first, her cry blending with her sister's. Then the third, a boy, his hair a soft tuft of dark curls, his cry softer, but just as determined. Then the fourth, another boy, tiny but fierce, his eyes opening briefly, as if taking in the world around him. For cries. For babies. For lives. Maya collapsed back against the pillows, exhausted, sobbing, her body shaking with relief. Sasha leaned over her, her face close, her gray eyes glistening with tears, something Maya had never seen before, not in all the months they'd known each other. "You did it," Sasha whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You're incredible. So incredible." She pressed a kiss to Maya's lips, soft and gentle, a kiss that held everything, gratitude, love, awe, devotion. Maya kissed her back, her heart full to bursting. The nurses brought the babies over one by one, placing them in Maya's arms. They were small and warm and perfect, 4 tiny miracles that Maya and Sasha had created together. The first girl, they'd already agreed on a name. Ava had Sasha's gray eyes, sharp and bright. The second girl, Mia, had Maya's soft brown eyes and a head full of dark hair. The first boy, Lucas, was tiny, his cheeks pink, his fingers curling around Maya's thumb. The second boy, Eli, was quiet, watching the room with wide, curious eyes. Sasha reached out, her hand brushing gently over Ava's cheek, then Mia's, then Lucas's, then Eli's, her touch light as a feather, as if she was afraid to break them. "They're perfect," she said, her voice soft, reverent. "All of them. Perfect." Maya looked up at her, her heart full. This was the woman who'd once seen her as nothing more than a contract, a vessel, a means to an end. This was the cold, ruthless mafia alpha who'd burned the world down to protect her and their babies. This was the woman she loved. "I love you," Maya whispered, even though Sasha already knew, could feel it through the bond, constant and unwavering. "I love you too," Sasha said, her voice quiet but sure. "More than I ever thought possible. More than anything." The room was quiet now, except for the soft cries of the babies and the steady beep of the monitor. The sun was rising outside the windows, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, a new day beginning, a new life for all of them. Maya held their babies close, Sasha beside her, their hands touching, their hearts connected through the bond. The contract that had brought them together was long forgotten, replaced by something far more meaningful. A family. For babies. 2 mothers. A love that had grown from a deal with the devil into something pure and perfect. Maya closed her eyes, smiling as Ava let out a soft gurgle, as Mia nuzzled closer, as Lucas and Eli settled into a peaceful sleep. She knew their lives wouldn't be easy. Sasha's world was dangerous, their family unconventional, but none of that mattered. They had each other. They had their babies. They had love. And that was enough. 6 months later, Maya enrolled in the art school Sasha had paid for, her tuition covered by a scholarship fund that Sasha had established in Maya's name, without telling her, of course, because Sasha Valkov would never admit to being soft. Lily came to visit every weekend, doted on her 4 nibblings, and told everyone at school that her sister was married to literally the most powerful woman in Boston. Maya's mother went into remission, the best medical care money could buy, arranged by Sasha before Maya even had to ask. And every night, Sasha came home to the townhouse by the river, where the nursery was always warm, where 4 cribs held 4 sleeping babies, where Maya was waiting with a sketchbook in her lap and a smile on her face. "Welcome home," Maya would say. And Sasha, cold, ruthless, untouchable Sasha Valkov, would smile back. "I'm home," she would answer. Because she was. Finally, she was home.